Still Christmas season, but many good news Nigerians are getting from across the country, and no better a time like this for us to have an insight into the thinking of the presidency. Perhaps Markwe should start off this with us. Good morning. We'll take it back to your studios, Markwe.
Thank you, Sulaiman. We have with us this morning Mr. Femi Adeshina, who is Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you. Good morning.
And Merry Christmas to you.
Same to you. And same to all those who are watching us.
Okay. Well, you know, it's been a very tough year. We're also approaching the end of the year. For some people, it was a very tough Christmas. Some people were not able to go out to celebrate during the season. I'm sure you're aware of that in neighboring Kaduna. And it would seem that all we're being told is to be patient. That was the president's message. That was the crux of his message.
Yes.
Patience. So would you say that the president is aware of some of this, you know, circumstances, you know, around, you know, factors hindering people from celebrating their Christmas and even celebrating the end of the year in general?
The president lives in this country. Not only does he live in this country, he's aware of what is going on in different parts of the country. The president is a down-to-earth person. He does not live in the sky.
Some people wonder, really, because they kind of think that the president is insulated from what is happening. You know, the speed of response, which a lot of people expect in certain instances, doesn't come through, for instance. Let's even talk about, you know, because since we're talking about security this morning, let's talk about the situation in Kaduna, for instance. We haven't heard word from the presidency in terms of what is happening to, you know, the security situation in Kaduna. We've heard the governor quite all right, but it would seem that at this point, the president, or the presidency should be speaking up on the matter.
You don't have to hear from the president or the presidency on that matter. You see, when it pays us, no. When it pays us, we talk about federalism and true federalism. Yet, you want the president and the presidency to talk about everything. In one breath, you ask for true federalism, in which states control certain things. And then, at some other occasions, you want the president to talk about everything. When something like that happens in a state, there is a chief security officer. As long as it's on top of the matter. The governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, was still at the villa on Thursday to brief the president. Then so, why should the president then be talking about it? No, in true federalism, it's the governor who should be in charge of it, and he's in charge.
Mr. Adeshina, it would seem that you're the one who's cherry-picking this morning.
Really?
Because the thing is, I mean, if we're talking about true federalism, we're not practicing that yet.
So, when do we start?
We're not practicing that yet.
As
we speak,
start?
The security agencies are still federal institutions.
Oh, yeah? And
we still have a situation on our hands where quite a number of people are not able to move around. I mean, yes, the president has talked about tackling insecurity and, you know, tackling the problems in the Northeast. But it would seem now that the problems of insecurity have spread far beyond the Northeast. We're talking about farmers and herdsmen clashes. We're talking about kidnappings rife in certain parts of the country, and now we're talking about the people who are, some of them are alleging genocide right here, you know, not too far away from Abuja. Have you heard some of these allegations?
All that still does not call for a knee-jerk response. It calls for calculated responses. Because if you have knee-jerk responses all over the country, you end up modeling the situation and compounding it further. When things happen, there is a chief security officer. Who is the governor? Yes, the agencies, police, military, and so on are still federal, but there is somebody who has been trusted and entrusted with the responsibilities of a chief security officer. Let him play that role and let that person liaise with the president. That is the way to go.
So how soon do you think we'll be getting any comments from the presidency?
Oh, you are still bent on this comment from the president.
It's important because, the citizens, the life of every citizen would matter. I mean, and should matter.
It does matter. It does matter. It does matter. But there is a procedure for doing things, and this president is a procedural person. When something happens in the state, he's on the phone with the governor, and the governor briefs him. It doesn't have to barge in and start making pronouncements that may end up being at variance with the position on ground, because it's far from there. So he trusts the governor, who is nearer the situation, to brief him. And that's the way to do it. We need to start doing things right as Nigerians, and that is what this president stands for.
Let's look at the situation in the Northeast, which is, one of the areas where the administration, likes to say that their promise have been fulfilled, especially when it comes to terrorism.
Let me take you up on that. Likes to say their promise has been fulfilled. It's like you have some bias, Makwe.
I have absolutely no bias. I mean, it's one of the areas. I mean, if you ask, if you ask any government official about, insecurity, for instance, the first thing they'll point to is defeating Boko Haram. And it's a claim that quite a number of people say, well, we seem to be winning the war, but they don't believe that the war is fully won or has been fully won. Would you agree with their comments?
Well, those who are versed in the art of war, they talk of asymmetric war. And the war against Boko Haram has been described as one of such. It's not a conventional, regular war. Such wars do not end for a very long time. Such wars, you see, there are some people they call bitter enders. Even when the shooting war has stopped, they want to continue to fight. I'll tell you about Nicholas Chauvin. When Napoleon went to war, he had been defeated at the Battle of Waterloo. But he had an officer called Nicholas Chauvin, who even after Napoleon had surrendered, refused to give up. And he continued fighting till he was killed. That's where the English word chauvinistic came from. Somebody who refused to even see any opposite side of an issue. He continued fighting. If you read My Command by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, he talked of when even Philip Effiong had surrendered and the civil war was deemed to have been over. Some young Igbo chaps were still fighting. Even after Philip Effiong, who was number 2 person to Ojukwu, had surrendered. They continued fighting till they were killed. So there will always be bitter enders at any given time. Even as Sambisa Forest has been taken over, you will still find some elements who will continue to fight. And of course, you know what will happen to them. They will be taken out eventually. So this kind of war is not one that at a point you will say, well, because Sambisa has been taken over, is over for now. No, it is over when we stop having strikes and attacks. And it will be over. It will be over.
Let's go to Lagos now for some questions.
Then get to hear Mr. Adeshina say all of that about federalism, because if we pursue that, I think the government at the center definitely will have a lot of explaining in terms of its incursion in many states across the country, even when we talk about local government administration and the bailout they've been doing. But that's another one. One big issue we still must stay on is this issue of insurgency. Perhaps I will be clear if you tell us if that is what the government would want to call a defeat of Boko Haram. Has the federal troop, the federal government, so to speak, defeated Boko Haram with the takeover of the Sambisa forest?
Well, if you look at the president, word for word, there's no place you will see him say that signposts the defeat of Boko Haram. No. It's an interpretation by the press. What the president did was to congratulate the military for taking over the last camp of Boko Haram, which is called Camp Zero. What that effectively means is that Sambisa Forest, which was like the last stronghold of Boko Haram, has been effectively taken over by the military. In no place, look at that statement from the president, word for word, you won't see defeat of Boko Haram anywhere. But it's significant that what was the stronghold of Boko Haram had been taken over. Camp after camp taken over till the last one, called Camp Zero, was taken over.
Now that it took it over, they find perhaps the Chibok girls, the remaining Chibok girls, which we all believed as a nation are being held in that camp. For some others, they are wondering where the girls are at the moment.
Yes, I think it would be good to look at the president's statement word for word, because in that statement he also said that Nigerians looked forward to the rescue of the remaining Chibok girls, and he appealed to the military to be on the lookout for them. Now, if the last camp in Sambisa Forest has fallen and the girls are not there, it goes without saying that maybe one, they were not there in the first place, or two, they had been spirited away before the camp fell. So the situation now is that the girls were not found in Camp Zero. Whether they are within Sambisa Forest or not, nobody knows. But will the girls be recovered if they are alive? Yes, eventually they will be recovered. So if you look at the press this morning, Brigadier General Rabi Abubakar, who is the defense spokesman, has said that, yes, the military is still working on recovering the girls, but it will not disclose its strategy for now.